So it's my absolute pleasure now talking about his brand new autobiography, Stand Up Chameleon. It's the legend Phil Cool. Hiya, Phil.
Hello, Chris.
Great to have you on the show. How are you doing?
I'm very good, thank you. Yes, getting older by the day,
Hey, it's
but
just a number. You're looking great.
well, yeah, I
First,
could I
first,
could listen to you all night.
how did the autobiography come about? How long has it took you to write it and put it all together, Phil?
Right. Well, I started about 2010, and it came out as a cyber book in 2013. But you can't put photographs in cyber books. You can only put one on the cover. That's all you could do then. I don't know what the case is now, but that's what you could do then.
Right.
And it didn't sell very well. And in recently, this year, 24, we had it converted into a proper uh, paperback book with photographs in it and everything, and it's a really nice thing. Just holding it in the palm of your hand, it's kind of like a glossy cover with the best face I've ever done on the front.
It's a great
Uh,
face on the front, Phil. It's a brilliant face on the front.
yeah, and yeah, it's just a tale of my adventure of how I got started and how I used to be an electrician. And I hated that, and I eventually escaped from it and went into the clubs and pubs and what have you, and made my way that way until I got good at it after 10 years, and then I got a nice break then with BBC Two, the Coolidge shows. That was in 1985,
And we'll we'll,
and
tou we'll touch on that in just a moment. One of your debuts on TV, I think, was something called Rock with Laughter, which I think you filmed not far from me in Kirkstall Road,
yeah,
I think, in
well, I
Yorkshire.
meant yeah, I mentioned that in the book. Rock with Laughter was the first national television thing I did. It was on Saturday night, but it was an awful show, really. But it got my face up there, and it got me noticed by all the right people.
I was going to
And
say, was
it's
it one of those shows that you kind of got instantly recognized once the show had been transmitted?
yeah, yeah. The thing that I recall most about it was my money went up after that. I could charge more.
That's not a bad thing, is it? And of
You go.
course, one of your first roles as well was voicing various characters on Spitting Image. Did that kind of opportunity follow on after Rock with Laughter? How did that come about, Phil?
Well, the spitting image thing came uh, via a phone call to my agency, and they said, would Phil be interested in warming up a studio audience at Central Television in Birmingham? Because we're showing this satirical show on a big screen, and it's got lots of characters in it, and we're testing which ones work and which ones don't. And to get the audience in the mood, we'd like Phil Cool to come round and warm the audience up, and that's what happened. And I got that because I've been on a program called Stay Back, and I think Mike Harding had told Chris Tarrant that this Phil Cool guy was really good and he should have him on his show.
Oh.
And he kept pestering Chris Tarrant every time he met him and saying, have you not spoke to that Phil Cool guy yet? Come on, you want to get him on your show. Anyway, we got a phone call, and I went and did this show called Stay Back. And stay back in the Midlands means it's a lock in at a pub where they lock the doors and carry on drinking.
Right.
That's what
I wonder what the phrase,
stay back.
right.
That's what stay back means. And it was shot in pubs, and it was a right mess of a show, but it was fun to do. Chris Tarrant hosted it, and they had bands on like Thin Lizzy and the Susie Quattro and all kinds of bands and comedians. Even Burning Manning was on it once. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. And it was a right mixed bag. And when Chris Tarrant came and saw my show in Liverpool, he said, "Right, I'll have you on." And he gave me the break. And I did this show, Stay Back. And the director of it was called Peter Harris, and he directed the Muppets. And he ended up directing Spitting Image because of his ability to,
yeah.
to, to do such shows. Because he had a lot of training with the Muppets, so Spitting Image is a similar thing,
Similar
except
thing.
it gets puppet.
Absolutely.
So he was chosen for that, and he remembered me. He said, "Let's get that Phil Cool to warm the audience up, and we'll make a laughter track out of it because he can make people laugh without saying much just by his appearance. So we'll get all this clean laughter track, and we'll put it on Spitting Image." So that's why I was chosen to do it. So
That's
I went
amazing.
and did it, and they were all delighted with it. And the producer John Lloyd, who now produces QI,
Yeah.
he said you can come and do some voices on it if you want. So I did a few voices, not many. I did Holly Johnson and Boy George and Mick Jagger and David Frost, and that's about it really.
Yeah,
But
but you were there at the start. I mean, there's no denying that. And of course, then you moved to BBC Two. You had Cooley. I mean, how long did it take you to do the first series of those three episodes to kind of co-write it and put it all together? How long would you say the preparation took to get it right?
well, the material for the first Cool It series, it was tried and tested stuff that I've been doing on my gigs.
Yeah, yeah,
So I probably had an hour and a half of good stuff.
yeah,
So the first Cool It series was only three 25-minute shows.
yeah.
So I had plenty to do that. And Jasper Carrott got involved with it as well. So he sort of edited it and made it better. Because I used to waffle on a bit. And he used to say, "You can't waffle on like that, Phil. You've got to go straight for the meat. Go for the meat." Meaning get to the funny bit quick.
Of course, not many shows though. When I was looking at the transmission times earlier, series one went out August 1985 and then repeated by January 1986. I mean, that's how popular that first series was.
Oh, it was because it had no fanfare at all. It just came out of nowhere. And the woman's voice after the news just said, "And now let's uh, cool it with Phil," or something like that. And that was it, you know. And then I came on and took everybody by surprise. There was no trailers or mention of it in the papers or anything. And Jasper said, "Well, that's not a bad thing because people will think they've discovered you for themselves," which is exactly what happened, really. And I remember Steve Wright, who died recently, the
Yeah,
BBC
yeah.
man, he was going on about it all the time. "Did you see Phil Cool on TV last night? Wasn't he incredible? Where's he come from? Where's he been hiding?" All this stuff, you know. So that whipped up a lot of interest as well.
And of course,
So
series two and three were repeated on BBC One. I mean, that
yeah,
was
yeah.
that must have been strange because obviously,
Two bites at the cherry, yeah.
two bites, absolutely. I mean that. I mean there was a bit of a gap in between the series, I guess, for you to kind of work on which characters we're using. Which character did you? It's a two-part question. This. Which character would you say was your favorite to do, and which one was the hardest to do?
Uh, Probably the hardest to do was Ben Elton, I think, but I didn't do it on the first series. I did it on the third series, I think.
Yeah, yeah,
Came in on the third series. And looking back on that, when I first did Ben Elton, it wasn't quite right. But that's what happens with impressionists. They attempt something and it's not quite right. You've got to do it for years before it gets brilliant. And if you compare my first Ben Elton with the last Ben Elton I did on television on a program called Cool Head, uh, this later one was far, far, far superior to it.
That's a very honest observation. That's very honest. I
Yeah.
mean, if you moved to ITV for two series in the early 1990s, but I suppose it was an interesting time to join Central because Central were about to lose their ITV franchise. And do you suspect that the show would have carried on if Central was still kind of existent, or what were your thoughts?
No, we went into Central TV blind. Really, we just got wooed by one of the producers, a woman called Judith Holder, and she came and well, she got in touch with us to say, would Phil fancy coming over to ITV from BBC? And I felt that the BBC took me for granted somehow, even though
Yeah,
they gave me the first break. They didn't seem that delighted with what I'd done somehow. And they should have been really, because it was everybody was talking about it, and I was like the most photographed person around at the time. But they didn't seem to go with it much, and I thought, well, perhaps perhaps they don't want some like working class kid like me doing this stuff, you know.
yeah.
Uh, because mainly it's Cambridge, Oxbridge boys that get all the programs. Perhaps I was taking up a slot that they wanted to get shut to me and give it to them. So probably that's paranoia on my part, really, I think. But those thoughts go through your head, you know. So we got um, uh, seduced into going to Central TV because they promised the earth in the spiel that they gave us.
Yeah.
We'll take Phil Cool like on to greater things, and we'll do this and we'll do that, and we'll treasure him and all this. But even before the Cool Head series had finished, the whole TV, the Central TV thing had changed. I think they was doing a streamlining there where they were getting the accountants had come in and said, you've got to get shut of this and you've got to get shut of that. And they put new people in, and they'd lost interest in the Cool Head series even before it was aired. Judith Holder, she'd gone somewhere else. She just bailed out and gone somewhere else. And Tony Wolff, her boss, that used to come in the studio and say, "You're doing a great job, Bill. We all love you here. You know, you've got to do this." He beggared off as well. You know, and they weren't very well organised either. I think they just abandoned the idea of my show because half the audience, it was empty seats. This is at Christmas, just before Christmas, and they didn't get the right people in. I mean, they weren't like Phil Cool fans. Where the hell did they got them from? They must have just dragged them in off the street or something, you know.
Which must have been
But
frustrating for you when you're putting that show together and see as the show's evolving. That must have been really frustrating.
yeah, it was more than frustrating. It was downright making me angry.
Yeah. But of course, you
Yeah.
carried on touring all the way through to 2013. I mean, you must have done a lot of miles on the road, Phil, over the years.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
What,
I retired in 2013, but I was 65 then. I'm nearly 77 now.
where would is there a particular gig or venue that stands out thinking, oh my word, that was a good night? I mean, you've done gigs in front of obviously Royal Variety, etc., but probably more intimate ones as well. Is there which ones stand out for you looking back?
Oh, theatres. Well, I like the Leeds Grand,
Great
probably.
theatre, great theatre.
That was the first one that I did, the big theatre. And then some of the shows many years later went well as well. I did a little show over on Ascension Island on the way back from the Falklands. and that
Oh,
was absolutely fantastic. That's probably the best show ever. It was the RAF, and they were really up for it. You know, they starved of entertainment anyway. You know, but they didn't miss a little nuance or anything. They got everything, and they were just laughing like there's no tomorrow. It was fantastic. And then I did a strange gig on an oil platform in the North Sea, and that was great as well. Like I did two shifts, the night shift and the and one show was at 8 o'clock in the morning, which wasn't that good actually. But the night one was fantastic. It was really because they're starved of entertainment as well, and I just couldn't go wrong. And they got everything as well. They didn't miss a treat. It was fantastic. Uh, Big theatres I've done. I did one in Canada and Montreal just for Laughs Festival.
oh
Was
yeah, massive festival. Yeah.
3,000 seater. That was good. Uh, I was doing my space creature routine there with Ronnie Reagan, who was in power at the time in America. I was doing an impression of him turning into a space creature, which went down a storm. And that's somewhere on YouTube. That now I think
Well,
it
after
just shows a clip of it. That's all.
which goes into my final question really. So when you were doing the autobiography, did you kind of go back and watch yourself in the early shows and that to kind of remind yourself for when you were writing about that area or not really?
No, no, I didn't. No, I didn't consult any diaries as well. It's just from memory. And the book, Phil Cool's Stand Up Chameleon, is uh, it's a tale of how it all happened, and the tale is punctuated by little tangents where I go off into a subject. So you're reading the tale, and then it goes off into a title like "Getting Spotted." So I do a whole few pages on what it's like being out and about and being spotted by people. And then there's about 15 of those punctuating the tale. So it's a strange mixture, really, but I think it works really well. And when I conceived it, I didn't know just how it would work. I wondered if it would be annoying reading the tale and then having to leave it for a while to read this bit about uh, killing time on tour. That's another title. Uh, but it does. It works really, really well. And what one a good feedback I got was from a friend of mine, Terence Blacker, who he he used to write a column for the Observer, and he's a musician like I am, but he does a few comedy things as well, funny songs and whatnot. And he bought it recently, and I got a letter from him, and he said, "I thought it was fantastic." He said, "Thank you very much." He said, "It was just thanks for a great read." That's what he said it was, a great read. So I was dead chuffed about that.
You know what? And well, Phil, all the best for the autobiography, and we'll put the link on the screen for those watching so
Yeah.
they can purchase it as well from Scratching Shed. And all the best for
Yeah.
2025.
Right. And there's also a place where you can reach my book, which is philcoolcomedy.com.
We will get that on the screen.
Philcoolcomedy.com.
There you go, radio listeners. You've heard it there. Phil, all the best for 2025. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you.
Bye bye.